I want to read you a entry from my journal today. I want to push myself today. When your head hits the bed, when that pillow touches your face, we should be dead. I want to be groggy tomorrow. I want to fight out of bed tomorrow. I want everything out of you. I want you to win. I want to win for you. And to do that, we got to get in that mode. We have to believe in ourselves. I want to create. Do you see it? I see it. Keep going. See where your limits are to create the life that you want to create. So I wrote that this morning. And this morning, my goal for the day was to write 2 articles, to paint 5 pictures, and to do all my social media posts. It's about 12:24, just after midnight. I did not achieve all of those things. I got 1 article. I painted 3 paintings. And I got, I would say maybe 60%. Maybe I'm being generous, 50% of my social media posts. And I think a lot of people would have negative things to say about themselves. Say that they're a failure. Say that they're not working hard enough. And on some level, that is important. It's important to be honest with yourself. It's important to keep yourself accountable and make sure you work towards it the next day. Where it gets tough or hard is when you get in the way of yourself. Because elongated negative self-talk can make you shut down if you fail over and over and over again. And I think it's a part of kind of this bigger thing where there's a lot of advice out there and it's really contradictory. One of the main examples is, if you love her, let her go. If you love her, fight for her. Another is, you have to work as hard as possible 24/7. And the other one is, you need rest to function. The latter is more of a, human fact. But it's difficult to reconcile, as we call it, to put together these 2 frame of minds. And I am not hard on myself today. Now, I'm accountable. We didn't complete the goal. But I never set the goal before. I've never done the goal of doing 2 articles, 5 paintings, and all the social media posts. Like, I've never done that before. And it was a reach goal I set for myself. And so I found in some ways a limit. But in actuality, I had a goal and ambition. I attacked it with a plan. And the way to go about it now is to adjust my plan. Maybe try harder, maybe put more effort in. Maybe not take a nap if I took a nap. Maybe not eat that meal at that certain time. Do this, do that, Not be on my phone as much. And the reason I'm able to do that, or that I have that inclination, because a lot of people probably would be harder on themselves and think of themselves as a failure in some sort of way. But I do it because of this guy. That's little me at 2, 3 years old. In many ways, I see myself as a vessel for that little dude. And to continue with the conflicting ideas, I think there's 2 conflicting ideas with that. You see, the reason I do it for that little guy, for me, old me, is because I think our values as kids is very pure. And they're created in a time where you don't really understand or care about these materialistic things, these status symbols, these, I guess, systems that I put in place before you. And the conflicting ideas that I try to come together are: you have to kill your old self, and trying to maintain the goals of my younger self. And it's difficult because you hear that advice, right? To get to the next phase, you have to kill your old self. And I think there's two falsehoods that can come with that. The first one is that, like I said, a lot of people don't really know what they want to do in life, and that's okay. But at the same time, you have to do something. And it's okay if you want to travel around, find yourself, do that. But the world is filled with a lot of distractions. And a lot of people hate their jobs, but they have to work them in order to get a paycheck. And you might want to do all these things, but you don't know how. You don't know where to start. You don't know what to do. I think, for me, my childhood self is the best place to start. Because when I think of my childhood self, it was someone that was really enthralled with the world, really loved the world, loved nature, loved how cultures melded together. And I have this story where I was in my, I think, third year of college. And I was doing this project. I was in a club, and I wanted to do a tech project. It involved switching around graphics and on a computer, like making a website where the graphics like changed based off a button. And I drew my own graphics because I wanted to digitize them and all that. To me, it was like the first time I ever drew. Like, I was learning to draw from scratch. I had no idea what to do. I looked up a tutorial and did like the whole thing. I practiced like a bunch of them. I think I made 150 like little faces, really bad. And to me, that was the first time I ever drew. And I was like, I like this. This is cool. And so I learned a little more about how to draw, did some shapes, tried to do like some figures. I kept with it. I was like, this is interesting. And it unlocked a part of my brain that I hadn't been open to in a while. Now, come to find out that I was at my parents' house, and we had a box of little, old pictures like this one, and things from preschool and stuff like that. And so I opened one, and it's my first grade little booklet, like year summary. And within it is a picture. It's like my favorite food, pizza, my favorite thing to do, hang out with my friends. And then on my favorite subject, it said art. I was like, oh. And then I turned to the back, and my teacher wrote a note for me. And my teacher said, Drew, you are an amazing artist. Keep making those wonderful stories and keep making great art. And the moral of that story for me is, somewhere along the complexity of life and the world, I forgot I used to make art. And I remembered all the little projects I used to do, all the arts I used to make. The booklets, I used to make trading cards. I saw some of them in that box. And so I think that, life can be hard for us. It's difficult. You got to figure out a bunch of things. But there's always something in what you already know. You have two minds, a conscious mind and a subconscious mind. Your subconscious mind stores like 90% of your experiences. And it's pretty much formed from when you are a kid. And our experiences and all of that, they really ingest in there. And if you have negative self-talk, it's not like a problem of yours. It's not even your fault. There's this thing called I think it's called a corpus callosotomy. Basically, there's this giant like web in the middle of your brain, because you have two halves of your brain. And if you have seizures, they used to split the middle connection, the bridge. You can live without the bridge. And there was this patient they had in, I think, the 80s, like the 1980s, where they did this like split brain procedure. And there's a syndrome called split brain syndrome. You can look it up, and you'll probably get the name of the actual thing. And what they recorded was this woman said she put on her socks and was trying to put on her socks, and one of her hands would throw the sock away and get in her way of trying to put her socks on. And so she would use her left hand, try to grab the sock, try to put it on, and her right hand would take the sock away from her and throw it away. And so the interesting thing about that is your brain is actually fighting you constantly, you know? And it's not that it's against you. It's built for survival. There's this classic thing of intuitive thoughts, intuitive thinking. You know, there's, for example, if you were hunting back in the day, there's a reward for curiosity, right? If you like have an inkling that there is a pasture in the horizon, there could be extra food there. There could be more berries. There could be things you don't know about. A new area, new undiscovered land. But on the other side, there could be like a bear, and you don't know. And so this conflict is built for your survival. And for some people, this conflict evolves too heavily towards the negative. And you have to manage that constantly. And you have to manage that in multiple ways, especially if you're trying to be productive. You know, one of the big ones for me as well is we as humans have long-term goals, long-term dreams. I have long-term goals and long-term dreams. But in the short term, I just want to rest. I just want to like watch a video and, you know, just hang out, just chill. And I'm sure a lot of us do. But you have to figure out how to marry these long-term goals, these long-term ambitions, with the short-term gain you feel. You know, this is why a bunch of people talk about delayed gratification and all of those sort of things. And it's hard because what do? And like I said, you get conflicting advice everywhere. It's hard to know. Because especially in the world we live in now, social media, you'll get the quote, which sounds awesome to start with, grind 24/7. But it's really contextualized. And it's coming from a person that maybe A, has never been in your situation before, or has been there and they're out. And they've been out so long that they forgot what it's like to be in that situation. And so you have to figure it out yourself in a lot of times. And so why do I talk about negative self-talk? The first part of negative self-talk is realizing, to me, is realizing that you have this natural conflict with your brain. It's natural. You're going to think the things you do are wrong. You're going to kick yourself. And on some level, that's okay. On some level, that's okay. But you know, it can get bad. It can get too hard to that line. And I think it's also important to know that that's not a flaw, it's a feature of what humans do. And so you have to find a way to work with that. And one of the other conflicting ideas that I had to figure out with myself is, and I might have mentioned it and not gone into it yet, but is to kill your old self with still being aligned with my inner child. You know, I think the classic thing you'll hear is two people you should be trying to impress: your 8-year-old self and your 80-year-old self. If you're supposed to kill your old self to get to the next level, how do you do that? To me, I don't know. I can't pretend to tell you, but I can tell you my experience with it. To me, or for me, either you make that decision yourself, or life will give you a bunch of fun situations that will help you do that for you. You know, it will test you. It will give you swings, it will give you hits, and you'll have to figure them out. And you'll have to realize that you have to get rid of some mental blocks to keep going. And to me, that's really what the killing the old self is about. It's not about forsaking the values of your inner child. It's not about seeing the dreams your teenage self had and being like, those were dumb. It's actually about getting rid of the mental blocks that inhibit you from achieving those things. I heard this clip of Tyler, the Creator, rapper, if you don't know, talking about how he wished he shot this project because it was gone. And I get that. I get why someone would probably have a project forego and overthink it. Mine have maintained the same for a long time. I'm still working towards them. I'm going to achieve them. I've just started transitioning my life towards my goals. And my goals truly are from when I was a kid. They stem from when I was a kid. And they carry with me today. Now, whether that's because at core I always had them, or whether that's just me. Again, I can only tell you my experience. But my values come from when I was a kid and have evolved strategically from me growing up. And I think they've evolved strategically and changed strategically because A, there's been new variables, status, wealth, being safe, secure, etc. But also because I've had to get rid of the mental blocks and get rid of versions of me that had those mental blocks that couldn't do the things. And being in this situation now has made me really thankful for going to the gym, for doing physical pursuits, for running, because it's really like the same. If you go to the gym, you'll fail a lift. And, you could quit the gym, but if you've ever gone to the gym for a while, or even if you haven't, you're just weak. Like you just haven't done the movement, or it feels awkward or whatever. So you failed your lift, cool. You work on other things that strengthen you. If it's bench, you work on your arms. And you'll do other movements like incline chest press to work the muscles around or work the muscles in a different way to get stronger for that movement you're trying to do, for that goal. If you're running, you might try to run 5 miles, you only get to 3. It's not like you are physically incapable of running 5 miles. People have run 5 miles before pretty easily. It's just that you're not conditioned yet. And you need to get to that level of conditioning. And how would you get to that level of conditioning if you want to run 5 miles? Well, you just got to keep running 3 miles. Eventually, after 3 days maybe, 4 days even, you'll get, cardiovascular buildup to do 5 miles. And your body, though, especially if you do this for the first time, will fight you. It will get sore. It will hurt a lot. And then you learn to rest. You can rest for a day, especially if you've been going hard at the gym. But, you only have to make sure it's 1 day. Still talking about the gym, really, but also it applies. The translation is that, again, why I am keeping myself accountable for my missed goals, but still understanding is that My goal today of doing 2 articles, painting 5 paintings, doing all my social media, that was my 5 miles. Today I ran 2. Am I incapable of running 5 miles? No, I can run 5 miles. I can do this. I can feel having a flow state, and I can see having a flow state where I can do all those things. I'm just not there yet because I'm not conditioned. And I need to try to get conditioned. How can I get conditioned? I can do other things. For focus, there's this practice. It's an Indian practice. I forget what the name is, but you can look it up. It's where you put a candle on a table and you stare at it for as long as possible. And then you shut your eyes and you'll see like an inverse. It's supposed to like help you with focus. Another good example is staring at a wall, a blank wall for an hour to help with focus. Those are like the exercises to help me with focusing more on my tasks. There are things I can do. There are other exercises I can do. And I can see how it could be difficult when you don't see that for yourself. You can't see yourself being the one bench pressing. You can't see yourself doing the bigger thing. And for that, I won't pretend to be your life coach. I won't pretend to know the answer. But where I would start is, again, to understand the natural conflict that exists in your mind. To understand that there are mental blocks that might be subconscious. But the thing is, you have one life. Many people don't tackle that, ever. But you have one. And you might not even like your childhood self. And that might be a lot of reasons. Your parents, whatnot, people told you weren't worth it. No matter what, there's been things in my life that sucked, have been lame. And the conclusion I always came to was, I will never let someone else run my life. Ever. I will never let someone else make the decisions. I will never let someone else's actions dictate what I do. I think we can put a lot of weight on them. I think a lot of Buddhist practice teaches really well where it's like to forgive. Because if your parents were mean to you, or if that person was mean to you, it's their first time being parents. Maybe they're just bad at it. There are some bad parents. If it's a person, they have their own thing going on. And it's hard to understand that when someone tells you that. But the thing is, it's your life. And if you have regret, the only person that sits with that at the real end of the day is you. And I'm still young, 24. But I've had times where I've been embarrassed about things, done things that were embarrassing. I've been through high school. And I can't think of one that still matters, And I apply that to now. If I do something embarrassing, if I do something dumb, in 5 years, which isn't that much time, I'll grow, I'll learn, I'll be a different person, really. I will have different experiences. And if you do your own thing, your experiences compound exponentially. So you'll be exponentially different. And then when you look back, you'll be like, oh yeah, that kid was dumb. But you in the future will be way better if you keep trying to do your reps, to run the mile. The goal might be 5 miles now. But if you keep running 3 miles, you'll get to 5. And then eventually you get to 5, you'll get to 10. And the reason why it's exponential is it's so funny. You'll spend the most amount of effort and the most work on your worst outcome. When you first learn video editing, which is what I'm doing, I spend a lot of time video editing, and they are my worst videos. This one, not so much, which is why I'm doing this one. But in the future, I've done this with other short form content. And then, once you know the gist, it takes me less time to make better videos. Same applies to a lot of things. When you start writing, you'll suck at it. You'll be bad. It will take you 8 hours a lot of internal thought, a lot of planning to write your worst work. And then it'll take you less time because you've been through the process. So it just takes believing in yourself more accurately, just trusting that you can do it, practicing the reps, and taking a stab at it and being understanding. You know, if I had zero ambition, or not even that, if I was at ground zero, like I couldn't even focus for an hour, I would just every day try to do 30 minutes. And then I would try to do 40, work up somehow. And if I failed, I'd be like, that's okay. I would just make sure I attempt every time. Actually put in my best effort. Because you can do it. We can all do it. There is nothing, really nothing, holding any of us back. We're all the same species. Some of us have different genetics, blah, blah, blah. But we all have some advantage. And we all have an art to put out. And I think it's important that you, whoever you are, if anyone watches this, you find what that is. And you don't be so hard on yourself. Because it's a process. Like, even if somehow you're 40 watching this, dog, you have like at least like 30 more years, like 2 times your life. At least. Because like AI, medicine, blah, 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 blah. You have so much time. That's like my lifetime. So, I guess I just wanted to talk about that because, yeah, negative self-talk can be a tough thing. And I don't have the answers, but I hope that helped. That's at least how I think of things. So, I hope that could maybe help somebody. Be good.